Good evening, everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with CNN News 18. I'm Shivani Gupta and I'm joining you live from Chennai, the M.A. Chidambaram Stadium, where, of course, the World Cup opener for India versus Australia is going to take place on Sunday. The Chepauk is a curious venue because India actually doesn't have a very strong record here as far as the ODI overall is concerned, while Australians have a very good record at the Chepauk. Even in the World Cup, the matches that the two sides have played have actually gone more in favour of Australia than India. But all of that counts for very little. As Rohit Sharma, the India captain, said in the pre-match press conference today, so many teams play so much in India now that there is very little of a home or an alien condition anymore. And no matter where you go, anywhere in the world, it's not like the conditions are so different that they will mean a lot. Having said that, of course, he did add that they will look at the pitch tomorrow to just get a sense of where it is at, because the pitch changes colour quite a bit at the Chepauk, as Rohit Sharma said. And while it may not determine their playing 11, which will be set by this evening, it could make a little bit of difference of how the batsmen and the bowlers approach the match tomorrow. So can India start with a bang? That's the big question. We will be joined by our experts Murli, Kartik and Ayaz Memon in just a bit. But before that, let's set up this clash for you.
Chennai is all set to witness the battle of the contenders. An enticing opener for the men in blue versus the Kangaroos at the M.A. Chidambaram Stadium. Just before the tournament kicked off, India defeated Australia in an ODI series. But both teams were cautious and didn't field their strongest teams. The Aussies will be very eager to play this match on the Chepauk ground because their record here has been quite excellent. The Australian team has so far played 6 one-day internationals in Chennai, winning 5 of them. Overall, 12 matches have been played between India and Australia in the World Cups, in which India has won only 4. But numbers will not make the visiting side complacent, as they know this Indian side is possibly the strongest in the competition. Chepauk's pitch is generally considered helpful to spinners, which will play to India's advantage. Having said that, in a blockbuster World Cup clash, it is the side that shines in moments of pressure that will come out on tops.
Let's go across to our guest joining us, Murli, Kartik, former India cricketer and cricket writer Ayaz Memon are with us. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Kartik, let me come to you. Does the venue play a very big role? Because the Chepauk, as we were mentioning, has an interesting history which actually favours the Aussies more than India. In fact, along with the fact that the Aussies have a better win-loss record here, as far as India versus Australia in the ODIs at Chepauk is concerned, they won 2 and India has won 1. Overall, of course, they lead India when it comes to the World Cup record as well. Would the venue be too much of a factor, you think, as we gear up for this World Cup opener for India?
Firstly, good evening, everyone. Shivani and Ayaz. Look, the teams will say that, look, it doesn't matter. And that's the bravado front. And ask any player, he'll say, oh, it doesn't matter. But a bad hangover is always a bad hangover. So you always have memories of not having done well on a certain venue. Why do players say, oh, every time I go to this venue, I seem to rekindle good memories, and so it is very good for me and I seem to do well. So collectively as a team as well, teams do remember, because you've got all the analysts who come and tell you that this is what it is, this is our record, this is what we did the last time. And in fact, so much so that recently, very recently in March, India lost badly. India couldn't chase down, 260 odd or something like that. And the Aussie spinners, Zampa bowled beautifully, in spite of the Indian spinners doing well. So they will have memory. Obviously, Australia is a strong side. Australia's record in India is outstanding. Notwithstanding the recent 2-1 loss, every time Australia come here, they punch well. And obviously, they have been a superb side in World Cup events. So all these teams keep these in mind. And even for Australia, it's a great memory. It's a great memory that you're playing the first game against the contenders. And this is the venue where we have done well.
Yes. Interestingly, Rohit Sharma did talk about what I mentioned at the start of the show, that, conditions aren't that different. Yes, little bit of difference is there. And no matter where you go in the world, it's not like it's an alien condition anymore. Add to that the fact, Ayaz, that the Aussies not just have played at Chepauk, they have a very favourable record in World Cup and in India, at the Chepauk especially. They also play in India a lot. So it's not just about the Chepauk. Anywhere else too, that whole... that whole element of surprise or not knowing the conditions or having alien conditions is out of the window now, because these players play in India so much during the IPL and otherwise. And Rohit Sharma also mentioned that the Aussies were smart in their strategy and in their planning, as they always are. They had 2 one-day series in India in the run-up to the One-Day World Cup in India. So they've had 2 series in India, while India, of course, in the last 3 series has also played in Australia. Australians are not going to come here in any way feeling out of sort at all. They will be feeling pretty gung-ho, especially with the prospect that Gill is not going to feature in tomorrow's match.
Shivani, actually they'll feel at home, because they, so many of them play in the IPL, as you know.
Yeah.
And in the past few years, they've come so often. This team, the Australian squad, about out of the 15, I think about 10 of them have been regulars coming to India, or maybe 11, 12. They've been coming to India regularly. Somebody like even Manas Labuschagne, who's not been part of the ODI squad, he just got inducted into the squad very recently. But he's come here as a test cricketer. So and there's so much discussion which happens about Indian conditions when the teams come here and they play, or the players come here and they play about in the IPL. So they know the conditions very well, whether it's Chepauk or Lucknow or Mumbai or wherever else they might play. And they also know the Indian opposition extremely well. And this is where I think it gets very intriguing and fascinating, because in the last 5 matches, as you know, India have won 3. But the last match that was played in that series, Australia have won. So they kind of turned the momentum around a bit heading into the World Cup. How much of an advantage that is, we'll have to wait and see. You might see actually 2 star players not there, Gill for India and maybe Stoinis for Australia. But I think that the contest between these 2 teams over the past 4-5 years across formats has been really intense. We keep talking of the Indo-Pak rivalry, and there's so much melodrama and it is very high octane stuff. But the India-Australia rivalry has really become, it loses nothing in intensity on the cricket field, I can tell you that.
Yes, absolutely. So just to take our viewers through some of the recent results, obviously one series was played just in the month gone by, a 3-match series where India won the first two matches convincingly, but Australia won the last one convincingly as well, and they are coming off with a win under their belt versus India in that sense. In the series before that, in March in India, India won the first match of that series, but the Aussies won the last 2, and they won the series 2-1. And then there was a series in Australia in November, December. It's been a while, of course. In that, the Aussies again beat India 2-1. So in the last 3 series that the 2 countries have played, Australia has had a dominating hand, including 1 series in India. In the last 2 series at least that were played this year, Kartik, what did we find out about each team? How was the contest for you?
I think one of the best things about Australian teams is that, look, they are always a well-oiled machinery. You can compare this team to the teams of the past. Those teams used to win regularly wherever they went. It was very similar to the West Indies teams of the past, where they could go anywhere in the world and they would dominate world cricket. So Australia did do that for a big period of time, and then there was a big paradigm shift in the way Australia started thinking and the Australians started playing. In spite of that, even if you take not just the last year, even the last 2 or 3 years, every time Australia have come, they have been the better team, maybe because of the fact that it's no longer alien, as Ayaz mentioned and you mentioned. There are so many of their players who come and ply their trade in IPL. There are so many tours to India. Compare the number of tours India makes to Australia and to the number of tours Australia makes to India, or the Australians make to India. So once you get familiar with the conditions, you're no longer in awe, or the factor that India used to be the final frontier for most teams. I think that has gone away, or that line has sort of been erased to a certain extent.